Hey everyone, hope you're excited for conference coming. I can wait. Yeah, a nice break. Okay, this rules. Tomorrow. Sure. Something to do. Sorry. Is everybody getting their conference registrations in? Now mine went to finance last month, so I'm hoping to get sent in soon. If it hasn't already. Have you gotten mine yet? Usually I walk it over and I'll give it to my boss. So
Check. I know I got races. I've got a few.
okay.
Yeah, it's right there. I don't. See.
Oh, I guess he is on. Okay, so today we have Robert Alvarez in Salt Lake City. He is our safety and training officer. He's going to be talking about safety practices while doing inspections.
Great.
Right.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
There's a little bit of an echo. We'll deal with it. Wanted to start off by thanking the Yoka board for inviting me to do the training today, so thank you for that. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So today we're going to be doing a little training regarding field safety, specifically inspections when out in the field. There's a variety of different approaches and methods to safety training. The one that we've implemented and that I personally prefer for both personal use and professional use is the situational awareness methodology. So a lot of the training I'm going to cover is based off of that. I want you to keep an open mind. A lot of what you hear today, you probably are familiar with. You may have already implemented this in your agencies, but the point here is if you could take away something new, maybe something you weren't aware of that you could begin to use to better improve your officer safety, then that's the whole entire intent of this. And before we do that, I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself. So again, my name is Robert Alvarez. I've got over 20 years of full-time experience as a code enforcement officer. Currently, I am a supervisor with the city of Salt Lake. Prior to coming to Salt Lake, I was employed with the cities of Santa Monica, San Fernando, and West Hollywood in the state of California. I am COSS certified. I'm CEO certified with ICC and ACE. And up until about 2 years ago, I still carried my CEO certification through CASIO, which is the California branch of code enforcement officers. I carried that for 14 years. I've got a PCA 32 certification, which is powers of arrest and the ability to carry firearms on the job. I've had OC spray certification. And as Corey mentioned, currently I'm responsible for providing officer safety training for the code enforcement division for the city of Salt Lake. So with that said, I share all that to share this with you. At the end of the day, I'm just somebody that comes to work to fulfill my job to the best of my ability, like every one of you. And the intent of this training is to be able to provide, again, just some additional information, maybe some new knowledge to get us all home safely at the end of the day. So with that said, what is situational awareness? Situational awareness is being aware of one's surroundings and any potential hazards or threats. A person who practices situational awareness recognizes the possibility of being attacked, harmed, or put in a dangerous situation and is prepared to act to protect themselves. People who work on improving their situational awareness have heightened observation, become more aware, are better strategic thinkers, and are able to better take advantage of opportunities. There are four main characteristics of situational awareness, including observation, orientation, decision, and action. Observation involves constantly monitoring the people and actions taking place around you Is someone around you exhibiting violent behavior or behavior that's out of the norm? Or is something in the area possibly presenting some type of scenario that could be of harm to you? Orientation encourages you to think about what is around you and how you're possessing information based on your experience. If found in trouble, where will you ask for help? The decision has you weigh all your options and look at what is the best possible outcome within your own capabilities. And then action is the last step and has you use all your previous information to protect yourself and get to safety. And so why is this important? So routine and distraction in the context of situational awareness refers to how performing repetitive actions in a familiar environment combined with distractions like phone usage or multitasking can significantly decrease a person's ability to actively perceive and respond to potential dangers or changes in their surroundings, essentially putting them in a less alert state where they might miss important cues. So the more we are aware and prepared, we are to recognize or identify possible hazards and dangerous scenarios, the less likely we are to be accidentally hurt or become a victim of a crime. So with that said, again, I'm going to be covering just some pointers, some tips on how to better be prepared and better be aware when you're conducting an inspection in the field. And so arriving at your inspection, give me 1 second here. Okay. When possible, arrive a few minutes early. Drive by the location, park a few houses away. This will allow you to the opportunity to observe any activity prior to approaching the property for your inspection. By parking your vehicle in front of a neighboring property, you make yourself visible to others in the community. And in a worst case scenario, you want that concerned or nosy neighbor to take note of the fact that your city vehicle has been parked in front of their house for X amount of time. You want somebody to know that, hey, this car's been here for 2-3 hours. And again, I'm talking worst case scenario. If you're injured somewhere on the property, you can't get to your phone, you want somebody else to notice that you're there. Park your vehicle facing the direction of your exit route. This is extremely important if you're inspecting a property that's in an alley, in a dead end, or a cul-de-sac. You want to avoid parking in areas that have blind corners, bushes, or that do not have a clear line of sight. Again, you want to be able to get to your vehicle if necessary and exit that situation, that environment, that property in place as quick as possible. So that's why the orientation of your vehicle when you arrive and park is so important. Always approach any inspection with the same level of caution. Do not presume that all is well based on prior interactions with the property owner. You know, as we do inspections and ongoing inspections, we build rapport with property owners, with tenants, residents, customers of the city. And there may be times that based on that rapport, we think, you know, everything's fine. I'm going to show up to my inspection, status quo, nothing's out of the ordinary. But the fact of the matter is that we're dealing with a human element, and that human element can always change. And so that's why it's recommended to approach every inspection with the same level of caution. And so arriving at your inspection continued, remember that we are most likely there at that inspection in an effort to gain some form of compliance. We're either there to ask them to change, to fix, to remove something. And for some, their home is their most valued possession, and no one likes to be told what they can or cannot do in their own home. So as you approach the property, be intentional about looking for anything or anyone that may pose a hazard or danger to you. Take note of the safest route in and out of the property should you need to exit quickly. Once you've approached the property and you've door knocked, take a step back. Stand off the stoop or the porch or away from the door. Again, this will allow some space between you and the door should there be any need to clear that area quickly. When possible, avoid standing directly in front of the door, and by that I mean square-footed in front of the door at the same width and just completely flat to the door. And avoid, you know, taking a step back to a window where somebody could easily be peeking out at you without you being aware of it. So avoid those such scenarios. Now, the exception of this would be, of course, if you hear a dog in the building. This is where you could potentially use your foot to push against the screen door, security door. Again, when that property owner opens that door, that'll prevent the dog from charging out at you once that door has been opened. And so again, these are just some pointers, some steps. I'm sure a lot of us already put these procedures into place. But again, if you can draw something from this, make a note of that. It's intended to keep you safe. And so while you are conducting your inspection, always allow the person you are meeting with to lead the way. By that, I mean, don't, try to avoid walking in front of them. Preferably say, hey, lead the way. Where are we going? Show me what I need to look at, or, this is your property, you're familiar. Go ahead, take the lead. So let them walk in front of you. Again, that'll give you a split second if necessary to react, to respond, to be able to get out of the way if you need to. So you want to avoid walking in front of them as much as possible. And now this is important depending on the capacity of your role with the city or your agency. Unless you're conducting a housing inspection, you want to avoid entering any building or structure that is not part of your scheduled inspection. Always remain outside as much as possible. If you don't need to go into the house or a building or an accessory building, then don't. Try to avoid those areas that are unnecessarily creating a hazard or potential danger to you. Just stay where you need to be. Do not enter any structure or room that you do not feel safe in, and never allow the person who you are conducting the inspection with to come between you and your exit. And so that's where it's so important, again, allowing them to lead the way. Let them go in first. You stay by the door, you stay by the exit, wherever it is that you can successfully complete your inspection, but do not allow them to come between you and your safest route. Be intentional about noticing where those doors and windows are located. Always keep track of the fastest route in and out of whatever you're inspecting, whether it's a building, a property. It's easy to get confused. I make a joke here within our agency because I'm sure many of you are familiar with properties that have these expansive basements that are like catacombs. You enter in there and it's just a layer after layer after layer, like a dungeon almost. And so you want to avoid situations where you can become disoriented, where you lose track of where you are, where you allow yourself to get so deep into the belly of this building or structure that you're not able to get out of there safely. So again, be intentional. Notice where you're walking. Where's the door? Where's the window? Where's the exit if I need it? Once you've concluded your inspection, exit that area. Get out of that building. Get out of the structure as quickly as possible. Usually after an inspection, unfortunately, we have to deliver oftentimes, bad news. Hey, this is what I found. This is what you need to fix. And again, this is where that relationship or that rapport that you've built could easily flip. And so you want to at least be outside of the structure where, again, you are capable of getting away if necessary, having a clear route out of that area. And so because of that, I recommend any conversations that need to be had with the property owner, manager, representative, whoever it is, do them outside, do them on the porch, do them on the front yard if possible, walk them out to the sidewalk if necessary. Just allow yourself to be separated from that space as much as possible. And so with that said, don't make yourself vulnerable. Trust your gut. That gut feeling, that gut instinct is more than just, something in the pit of your stomach. It's instinct. It's your body reacting to what you're experiencing before your mind can fully process the information it's receiving. So your body will feel something before your mind fully comprehends what's going on. Trust it. If something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't, make you feel, if it makes you feel uneasy, trust that feeling. If you arrive for your inspection and something seems out of sorts or unusual, if there's too many people there, you've dealt with this property owner before, it's an elderly lady or maybe a couple, and you show up for your inspection and now there's 5, 6, 7 people there. It seems out of sorts and it's unexpected. So trust that. Maybe you don't want to do your inspection. You don't feel safe. Don't enter the location. It's okay in many cases, if not all cases, to just call the property owner and reschedule for a later date, a later time. Allow yourself to be better prepared. If the property owner becomes agitated or begins to show signs of aggression, again, there's no reason why you can't stop the inspection and say, look, maybe this is a conversation or an inspection that needs to be done at a later time, once we've cooled down a little bit or once we've had an opportunity to revisit, and leave the area as soon as it's safe to do so. And then take all threats seriously. Never disregard or ignore any verbal threats. Take note, and if necessary, you may need to report this to your local PD. And so I'll be covering a little bit more regarding interaction with PD and what's proper for your agency I know here in the city of Salt Lake, we do recommend that if, again, you are threatened and it's whether it's, a credible threat or not, if somebody threatens you, we don't take that lightly. We want to let our police department know. And so we make people aware of that. So trust your gut in those scenarios. And so what do you do? What do you do if you are threatened or you are assaulted? And again, these are procedures that each individual agency is going to have to just revisit on their own, and each one of you will have to discuss with your management. But it's recommended that you contact your supervisor immediately, at least them, and to make them aware. Of course, after you've cleared the area, clear the area, make sure you're safe, make sure you're away from the building, the individual. But contact your supervisor, make them aware of what happened, what you just encountered, and then you and your supervisor can have that conversation and determine whether PD needs to be notified or not. If you are assaulted, if you are, threatened, if the person becomes aggressive, don't hesitate to call your PD. Get them involved immediately. Let them know so that they can come out and respond and assist you. Many of us, if not all of us, are not police officers. As I was looking at the room, I noticed some of you wear shields on your shirt, and so I don't know if you are working out of PD or directly associated with PD, or if you are PD. I don't know that. But a good majority of us are not. We're just civilian employees working for the city, so we're not the police. And so make sure you notify them. They are your cavalry 100% of the time. They're the ones that are going to come assist you if necessary. And then something to consider once the incident has occurred, once you're back in your office. I don't know if your agencies have something like this in place, but here in Salt Lake, we use our case management program to document incidences at addresses. And we make what's called a caution entry into the record. We record the event. This allows us to give a little bit more information in that system. That's a system that's shared by everybody in the office and other departments. It makes us aware that there was an incident there, and then we can provide, again, additional details. You'll know better as to what system your agency has. If you're able to make an entry or record the event, or at least notify others, because this, number one, for the future will remind you that you had an incident there. And number two, it will alert others and help make them aware of the situation so that they could potentially avoid the risks of being at that property. And so you've made it back to your vehicle. Again, I don't know your agencies. I don't know what your fleet budget is, but if you're driving one of these, then, best of luck to you with that. But after your inspection, if you make it back to your vehicle, once you make it back to your vehicle, I should say, finish your inspection, get in your vehicle, lock the doors, turn the car on, drive away. If you need to make any entries, if you need to write down any notes, if you need to make a phone call, I recommend you choose a location away from the initial inspection site. Find somewhere else to park. Leave that area. You can leave a property and everything is perfectly fine with the property owner. They walk back into their house. And in those few moments that they've been separated from you, things begin to stew. They begin to think about it. And if you're still sitting in front of their property or adjacent or close to or down the block, like I recommend, there's still potential for them to come out and become a threat, try to engage you in whatever form they choose. So that's why the ideal scenario here is finish your inspection and just leave. Go find somewhere else you can park, somewhere that's visible to the public, where you can sit safely and do your follow-up notes, make those calls, whatever else you have to do. Anytime you're in your vehicle, just make sure your doors are locked, your windows are up. Most new vehicles have automatic door locks. So when you turn the vehicle on, those locks engage. Others don't. So make it a habit to lock your doors, whether it's by hand or whatever the system is, just lock those doors. Make sure that once you have left the place of inspection and you found somewhere else to park, just because you've removed yourself from that particular scenario doesn't mean that you are not still open to other scenarios, which, could involve pedestrians in the area, homeless, whatever it is you might encounter somewhere else. So always be aware and be vigilant of your surroundings. Keep an eye out for pedestrian traffic. Try to park somewhere that's safe, again, and just, while you're taking your notes, look up once in a while, make yourself present, make yourself visible. So anybody walking by sees that you are not distracted, you are present. And if anyone approaches your vehicle and would like to ask you a question, always motion them to the passenger side. Instinctively, they're going to come to your driver's side window. They're going to knock. They're going to try to get you to put your window down, possibly open the door. Don't. Motion them around to the passenger side. Now, I do this often anytime I interact with somebody, and yes, they do get upset, but it is what it is. This is for my safety as much as it is for them. Motion them to the passenger side and only lower the window just enough to communicate with them. Have whatever conversation they want to have, answer whatever questions it is. Now, if you're parked on the street and it's an elderly individual or somebody, of course, that you feel comfortable with engaging, you want to keep them off that street up on the sidewalk. And at that point, you can basically, again, if the scenario and the circumstances feel safe to you, you can exit your vehicle, talk to them up on the sidewalk or away from your vehicle. That's completely independently, totally up to you. But again, just be vigilant when you're in your vehicle as well. And so situational awareness, always be present and aware of who and what is around you. Removing that element of surprise will reduce the advantage someone may try to use against you. Just being present, just seeing somebody walking at you, just making eye contact, that, goes a long way. Again, somebody who's looking to potentially harm you or hurt you is depending on that element of surprise. And if you're present, that removes that. And by being mentally aware and being prepared, you can have the upper hand. The aggressor, whoever it is, will be surprised at your response and take advantage of that. And so just real quick again here, I mentioned earlier, we're not police officers, but we are out in the city in a capacity representing the city. To a certain extent, we do have a little bit of authority in the job that we're doing. But as individuals, feel comfortable to give orders. So if somebody's coming, dangerously close or invading your personal space, it's okay to say, hey, stop. I need you to take a step back. Or, you walk into a property. I share this scenario with our group here. I was at a property last year. The property owner was there. I'd had some phone conversations with him, some better than others, but he tended to be a little aggressive and hot-headed at times. And so the time I was there at his property, I walked into his backyard and he had a shovel in his hands. And I looked at him and I said, look, I need you to put the shovel down right now. I need you to step away from it and come over here and let's talk. I gave him some orders. I gave him some instructions. And generally speaking, the average individual, when you talk to them with a little bit of assertiveness, with a little bit of authority, they'll listen to you. Now, again, that's the average, normal, respectable individual. You're going to find people that aren't going to care. But you'll be surprised how much your word and your spoken word, and like we tell our kids, using our words to give somebody commands will help the scenario. And so don't be hesitant to do that. Say, hey, stop, back away, come stand over here, whatever, is fit for this situation. And understand that the nature of our job puts us in a position of opposition. We're likely to experience someone becoming angry, yelling, possibly cussing at us. And again, people are entitled to do so. You can get frustrated at me. You can yell at me. You can, cuss at me if it gets to that point, as long as we're not being and this is ironic, I suppose you could say, but as long as we're not being disrespectful, right? If you're addressing the situation and blankety blank this and so on and so forth, I may not like it, but I get it. You're upset. I'll try not to take it personal. I'll make sure to remove myself from the scenario. Once it turns personal, once the person begins to attack you, to direct that aggression at you, to direct the cussing at you, then that changes the whole situation and you don't need to tolerate that. And so being mentally prepared, having the ability to stay calm and knowing how to respond if you are confronted, just being able to do that, that's paramount to your safety. So again, this is all part of situational awareness. And so you also want to be familiar with the tools and the resources that are provided to you by your agency. And so this is where routine, and this is where multitasking, and this is where, just doing things the way we do and the way we've done and the way we'll continue to do forever, we become creatures of habit. And so ask yourself, in an emergency, if you needed to get into your vehicle quickly, could you get to that vehicle and unlock the doors? Could you get into the vehicle and lock the doors? Could you get that key into ignition if still necessary, turn it on and drive away as quickly as possible. We take these little second increments for granted, but in a situation of danger or imminent danger, they may make a world of difference. So think about that for a second. How quickly could I get into my car or get to my car, unlock it, get in, lock the doors, turn it on, and get out of there? And again, these are just little things that we take for granted. How about making an emergency call? What's the quickest way you can make an emergency call? And do you know your cell phone? So cell phones nowadays, the Apple, the iPhone, and some of the other phones have actually emergency functions now, quick access emergency functions where you can either ask Siri or whatever the automated feature on your phone is to dial 911. There are shortcut buttons on your phone that you could hold or place that'll dial 911 for you. And so you want to be conscious of that. Spend a few moments, look at your phone, figure out what is the quickest way. If you're unable to physically pull it out, unlock it, dial 911, what other ways could you use to make that call if necessary? And so real quick, let me just interject this here. When you are making a call, when you're reaching out for help, I do another training separate on how to place a 911 call, but one of the key elements to any call for help is this: be able to articulate where you are. I personally, again, I've been with the city of Salt Lake 5 years, but I am infamous for I still don't know the city well enough to tell you that I'm on the corner of Main and State on the northeast side. And see, I just told you Main and State, they run the same way. Again, I don't know the city that well, but you know your city. Make sure you know where you are at all times. And by that, I mean, and it sounds ridiculous, right? But if you needed to call for PD assistance under duress, would you be able to call and say, I'm in front of 123 Main Street. It's a blue house. I'm in the backyard. Or this is where the situation occurred. So we always need to be conscious of those little things that we take for granted. But when the time comes, I'm sorry, for you to need to reach out by phone to ask for help, just be conscious of that. Keep that in your mind. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Because when that cavalry rolls, you want them to know exactly where you are, so there is no delay in them finding you. And then finally, if you are issued pepper spray or any other tool or device for your protection, how familiar are you with it? In this particular case, I'm talking about pepper spray. But if you are issued pepper spray, do you carry that canister with you? Do you have quick access to, or is it buried in your saddlebag or your backpack so deep somewhere in it that you couldn't pull it out if you needed to? So where is whatever tool you have that you plan on using as a tool of protection or defense? If in this particular case, dealing with pepper spray, have you checked the expiration date? So pepper spray does expire. It doesn't mean it's going to necessarily go bad on the expiration date or the day of. It just means that over time it does begin to slightly lose its efficacy. It becomes less potent. And more than anything, you want to be concerned with the canisters. They begin to leak. They begin to break sometimes. And so that's why we check the expiration date. And then, have you primed it? Just give it a quick shake. Like everything else, it does have certain ingredients that need to be primed once in a while. So just give it a quick shake. But at the end of the day, whatever elements, whatever tools, whatever resources are given to you, just make sure that you know how to quickly access them if necessary and how to use them. And then just some additional points to consider. So again, I'm pretty sure most of your agencies have good open communication with your PD. So having that communication, building good working relationships with them will be mutually beneficial. I found that many times when a PD is not familiar with civil enforcement or our function or what we do, they're just oblivious to who we are or why we're calling them. But when they understand that we could potentially help eliminate or mitigate a situation at a property that is resulting in them constantly being called out, whether it's homeless on a vacant lot or a renter at a property that we could eventually deal with and help remove that element, they are very grateful for that. And so again, there's that potential there to create a good working relationship. If you need to inspect a property that has been problematic, or is in an isolated area, consider asking a coworker to go with you. You could request PD for assistance to at least come out and accompany you. And then become familiar with your agency's policies related to contacting PD regarding problematic customers, the use of pepper spray or any other self-defense tools that are provided to you prior to carrying them or using them. And then I just threw this in here, but safety training is not intended to create fear or paranoia. When you're out doing the job, you don't realize or process the fact that there could be potential for, encounters that could result in us getting in a heated debate or an argument or even potentially getting physical. So whenever you do safety training, remember that it's not intended to paralyze you with fear or make you paranoid or diminish your abilities to do your job. It's just intended to better equip you so that you can perform your job safely and without incident. And then, we train and prepare for the unexpected. Even though statistically it's unlikely that you'll ever encounter any physical violence while on the job. Statistically, it's unlikely. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And sadly and unfortunately, we're all familiar with what happened in the city of West Valley a few years back. So again, this isn't something that doesn't happen. We just want to help provide as much information and training so that we can do our part to help prevent it from happening. And then finally, this has become our unofficial model here at Salt Lake City. Nothing we do during our workday is worth putting our safety or lives in danger for. That outdoor storage, that trash can in the front yard, that vehicle on unpaved, to somebody that's an issue, and it's an issue that needs to get addressed now. But the fact of the matter is, it's not worth putting your life, your safety in danger over. We have processes, we have procedures that'll help us address those issues. But again, if you're on the field, understand that there's nothing that we're doing really during the course of our day that's worth putting ourselves in danger. And then finally, stay calm, stay alert, stay safe. And so that again is just some information there regarding the situational awareness when you're out doing your inspections. Again, I hope you can take something from this. I hope it's been helpful. And like we tell each other here when we leave the office, stay safe, get home safely at the end of the day. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Unmute yourself or email or do something in the chat. Anybody here have any questions?
It's weird comments about your own experiences.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, he was saying, does anybody have comments about their own experiences?
Oh.
No, nobody?
Has anybody ever been assaulted or threatened?
I have.
Tripper. You probably deserve. I did. But I did what? I was going for him to know this place to walk down the shore, spray with theirs.
I would right this behind me and put your hand on me, but absolutely deck you.
The complete house. So that's where my fun joke of assault and pepper comes.
Yeah. So sulfur.
And yeah.
Well, I'll tell you about 30 years ago, so a previous life, right? Previous life, even prior to my law enforcement, I was working retail security and I got my jaw dislocated by a bad guy because I took my eye off him for a split second to look at the person with me like, what the hell do you want me to do now? Because it was the one that witnessed everything. Turned back and yeah, I got my jaw dislocated. And I've been dealing with it ever since. So yeah, not fun. And he's really lucky that he was able to jump in a car because he was dead. He just didn't know it yet. I'm like, job, that totally went out of my mind.
Right.
It came back to playground fight, defend myself.
Right.
And
It's funny how that happens.
It happened so fast. But so did the punch, happened so incredibly fast.
So we bring up, and I love this awesome. Great.
Yes,
Great.
absolutely.
We bring up the pepper spray, different things on that, but I still throw it out there for the group to try and get on the radio.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if you can't get on your dispatch radio for what you have there, then create the synopsis within your, and I'm forgetting, who was it that, he's not here. One of our agencies, they went and got the little 5 mile radios.
Like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, they're doing it within their own little code, but I think it's building code and their building inspection and color. So they're doing their own little dispatch thing so they can communicate, which that's something.
great. It's on the police radio, but my building inspector has nothing.
Yeah. And so I thought that was great that they're tag teaming that in
Yeah.
an issue they've, got a means to contact. So I'm trying to think who was.
And it would be this.
I gotta get better with names. What's your name?
Your English, so.
How about threats? Has anyone ever been threatened on the job? Tell us what would happen.
Which time? One time comes to mind that I didn't follow what we talked about. I had pulled into a lot so that I would have had to back out to get out of there. So I wasn't in a spot where I could just pull straight in. I had pulled in, and my inspector and I were inspecting the building. And as I'm getting into the trunk to get some tools, because it was a unsecured boarded building, we were just going to secure a piece of wood back on quick. My other inspector says, "Hey, that guy behind us has a gun."
Scary.
And so I turn around and I look. There's a guy walking down the alleyway just with a shouldered AR. And I recognized him as the business owner next door. So I went, okay, wait, I know this guy. He's just open carrying. I don't feel threatened. So I went up to him. I had spoken with him just a couple of days before. So I went to him and said, "Hey man, that's quite the gun that you've got carrying around. I don't think that's such a great idea. What's going on?" And he starts talking about that the other business owner in the hospital man beat him up the other night, and it's not going to happen again. And so I'm trying to talk him off that.
This sounds like your neck.
So I'm trying to talk him off of that ledge. Well, guess who pulls up? The guy that beat him up. And so, and I'm familiar with both of them, so I shake that down, and that's just an ogre of a man. I'm, 5'0" so when I shake his hand, you can't even see my hand and his. And they start fighting back and forth as I'm standing right in the middle of them, talking about who's going to blow whose head off, who's going to. And he starts brandishing, the other guy's carrying, and I'm stuck in the middle, just in a totally bad situation. Who knows why, but I just lost it. And I just yelled out, "Look, I'm sick of this." And I said some expletives. I've got a bleeping job to do. I've got stuff to get done. I'm not babysitting you two. I just was yelling and screaming. And then I just said, "You go back to your place. You go back to your place. This is it." And they both tucked tails and went their separate ways. But that's one of those bad situations that could have gone really bad.
Definitely.
So that's one of those things where we want to follow what Robin was talking about. Make sure that you can get out. Like if you can get into your car, you can just get away.
Know your exits.
Know your exits. You can just go. Know that this is what it is. Never put yourself in harm's way. Many times I've been threatened by homeless people just for going to an unsecured building or a location where they're at that they don't like that I'm taking pictures of the property or they're doing something like that. Just make sure to keep your distance. Make sure that, hey, and then also learn good de-escalation communication techniques. learn to talk to people. Sometimes you can't talk to, some people, they might be on some sort of medication, they might be on some sort of a drug that all the talking in the world isn't going to
Defense.
Yes. Yeah, all the talking in the world isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
But just know how to at least de-escalate the situation so you can put some space in between them or you in that situation so that you have a way out or you have that safety bubble. That's a big thing.
I used my truck as a barrier once.
Yeah.
His jurisdiction had listed on the fence. As I was leaving, I heard the door, turned around, and he was coming at me. So I just circled my truck and then radioed for help and waited for the cavalry to hit. Because I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Well, there was that kind of sniper out Colston for that guy talking on a motorcycle on sidewalk.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that they used to teach for defensive tactics stuff. So you let everything up.
Yeah.
So there's
I remember the tree thing. They used to teach you to circle a tree or whatever, so you always knew where your back is, to whatever.
That was
usually take context clues.
so that was crazy though, because if that's the same one you're talking about. So I was sitting in the truck in the driver's seat. She was posting a citation to the guy on the fence, and he pulled up on his motorcycle, and I was across the street from her.
I'm going to add to this in a second.
So he pulled up on his motorcycle, and he saw me in the truck. I don't think he saw her on the street. Oh no, okay. So then this guy, he come up to the truck because he saw me in the truck, and he was like this right at the window of the truck, and luckily the window was only cracked a little bit. But she's still out. I can't just leave because she's still not in the truck because I just can't do that. She saw what was going on, got on the police radio. We were about a block from the PD. They were there within about 2 minutes and had the guy away from the truck and all that. And I thought it was really funny because he pulled up in the middle of the street on his Harley, shut it off with the kickstand down just in the middle of the road. His grandson, I think it was, got off the back of the motorcycle, and the cop rolls up and he goes, "Was his grandson on the back of the motorcycle when he showed up?" And I said, "Yeah, he was." "Was he wearing a helmet?" He said, "No, he wasn't. Neither one of them were." I said, "Yeah," and that's his bike sitting there in the road. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I smell alcohol on his front too." So they took him over to the side of the road, did a field sobriety. They ended up impounding his bike. CPS got called. He got taken to jail for DUI. A simple parking citation rolled into a whole bunch more stuff.
So how many times has this happened to you? If he's so to add to that, when you do like tactic stuff, because past agency, hopefully the individual's not watching, we were serving a notice, and the guy had 2 precedent areas. You don't know what they are, they're very big, huge. And he let them loose, so I'm backing up to go across the street. Well, I didn't. So we're both in the truck. And literally parked right in front of the house. And so instead of coming to where they were sitting and going around the front, the person on the truck seen me, I went the other, but I angled this way because I knew all the equipment was in the back of the truck, but I needed to defend myself. And the guy came out with the dogs. Dogs came around, and they're like right at my footsteps. He runs out, like you're saying, pointing to her. She forgot I was even with her. She's, and she off. So now there's the guy, there's the dogs, and I'm standing there, and she went probably 3 car lengths down and realized, oh, there he is. Because she didn't see me come across the street. She thought I was stolen. So yeah, she lost her. And to her credit, she was trying to call in to get units there. But yeah, it's funny. You're going to be told, I guess it's happened to be both.
There was one when I was back in Michigan. It's a code enforcement. It's a firefighter. Little girl got bumped off her bike by a car. She wasn't in a crosswalk or anything. Literally bumped off her bike by a car. She wasn't, but her dad shows up and bruises and that or hit my daughter, I'm gonna kill him and the whole, I mean, she wasn't. And she maybe had some scrapes and bruises, but nothing really. And what he didn't realize was the police officer behind him was talking to the 82-year-old woman that was driving her car, getting her witness statement when he come up and confronted us trying to, get his daughter back there and everything. And he come up and the fire captain was standing there and I was holding her neck, with the collar and everything. So I can't go anywhere. I'm locked in. I can't do anything. And the fire captain, he just says, calm down. She's okay. You can ride with us in the ambulance if you want. Just precaution, trying to, de-escalate and everything. And he wasn't having it. He was ready to kill someone. And the captain, he said something like, just need to calm down. She's okay. You can ride with us in the ambulance. And I don't know what he heard, but he did a sweet right hook and connected with the captain right here. I mean, just that fast. And kind of knocked him back. And the officer was literally 2 steps behind him. And he paralyzed him, took him to the ground. And I'm sitting there holding her neck. And he's laying next to his daughter. You can't do this to me. You don't know who I am. As he's being handcuffed by the police officer who just witnessed all of it. And that's going, dude, I don't think God cares who you think you are. Right? Yeah. And at this point, I don't think he really cares, And I ended up that he had been drinking and possibly some illicit drugs and some other stuff. Yeah, with like attention problem. So he ended up in court a bunch of years. He ended up having to write an apology to the captain. And some jail time and some fines. I mean, what do you do in that scenario? I mean, I'm locked in, you can't do anything. So I guess that's coming my way, it's coming my way.
So for some of us,
I mean, I don't know what to do in that scenario when you can't do anything. You just know it's going to happen. It becomes the way it's kind of here. And what's happening, yes. And that's a bad way of thinking about it, but what else you going to do?
no, wasn't it, I make you, didn't North Salt Lake they did the phones? Yeah. With their group. And so they had a time schedule. So when they go out, and so like you would set your watch or whatever you had for,
Check in.
yeah. And so they'd like, excuse me, just a minute, they'd stop and, because they weren't allowed to do the emergency, the radio stuff and that, they had to check in with one another. Mm-hmm. Forget some of the, I know, Royce City had a couple things like that too. We look back and call it weird, but it's not that long ago. You didn't have the cell phone,
Right.
working the way the cell phone works.
How many of you have had personal dealings with a member of the sovereign citizens?
No, that's not from Dolan.
Yes. They're around. I don't know if they're drawing, but the indications are they are. Be very, very careful dealing with these folks. In my previous life, I worked for a famous federal agency, and we dealt with the Aryan nations, the white supremacy groups that were prevalent back in the 80s. They seem to attract these kind of individuals who would not hesitate to take any action against you. In fact, it's factual. Be aware, the sovereignties folks, they'll make you that they are a member of that group by the literature that they'll send back to you, by the language that they use when they talk to you. They're extremely protective of their personal property. I've got one that I'm dealing with that first time I had never talked to him before. He 6 or 8 vehicles parked in his yard that were unregistered. I had a complaint from the neighbors about it, so I went out, knocked on his door. I hadn't even hardly identified myself when he said, "You're trespassing on my personal dog. I'm going to take appropriate action if you don't get off." And then I got his literature in the mail when I sent him a notice. For some reason, these groups attract some cases that are occurring right now. I remember a particular incident when I worked for the federal government, IRS. I'd served a notice on this guy on the business in Lake, and shortly after he called me, and he said, "Mr. Dodd," he said, "I want you to know that I was a bombs during World War II. And the thing that really annoyed him and got me, kind of paranoid was, he said, I know where you live and I know where your children go to school." So I called our special agents. We had that, my street was blocked off within 20 minutes. And I was put in protection for 2 weeks until they arrested this guy with their thing with being really aware of the substances.
So that's saying when we're at a conference, because you'll Judge Christiansen there. And because we deal with that so much. And so make sure you bring that up with Christiansen, because he'll ask you, the officer, whether you're a police officer or whoever, to just give a note so the court knows, and then because he prefers to deal with it outside, and he deals with it separately. So it's an interesting thing to hear him describe how he has a court, and because of the way they try to handle it.
We recently last couple of months. So there's a guy that likes to sell honey, and there's a honey guy that I don't know that he's exactly what you'd really call a song citizen, but he plays part of it. Like, it's not like he's all in on it, but he definitely has in his mind that he's right, this is fine, kind of attitude. And I ended up taking him to court. I had a business license and selling land inside of our home. And he came in and he tried to argue some terrible law with the administrative judgment. And the judge basically goes, my dad was a honey farmer for 30 or 20 years. I know the laws you're talking about. They do not apply in this scenario. So pay the fine.
Yeah.
And he just shut him down. And we really did expect him to kind of appeal that decision to the district court. He would have lost 100%, but he never did. He came back. He's come back a few times. I just haven't been able to catch him. And it's just one of those. He's on that same spectrum, but he's not like all in with the time.
There's a lot on the internet. So that's the other crazy thing. People will Google which is the other thing that admits don't. Monk's great at this. Don't do the same thing the same way at the same time.
Vary your routine is what you're saying.
That's so guy. And that's crazy. He'll fill their balls.
Yeah.
And it's crazy watching these tubs coming. And roommate tubs with binders, and they had your call sign calling. And open them up, and it's a year's worth of what schedule you had. And open it, it'd say your call. Like mine at the time, it was T18. You open it up, there's my picture, the whole what I do, where I do it at, and then after that, it's all the call logs off the radio. And he had that on every officer that would be responding. And then he had an active scanner in there, but then he had somehow linked into their radio, which is great that the states now, for all of us that went through that melee here several months back, because the states changed all that. And which is one of the other reasons why is people were able to hack the system. But yeah, it's really crazy to look down and see your information. I know they know all about you. They knew my home residence. They knew who I was, what I did.
Yeah.
You know, and then they had and I didn't know it at the time because I was only around one store. It's kind of depressing. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm very jam. Yeah, but there's one. And but yeah, so I was less lethal. But you know, some of them had the little 5 bar down at the bottom. Clearly, that's what he was worried about. But you know, a little fruit on the tree came to go with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little crazy to think people actually take their time to do that.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things that I do when I'm not driving around is I don't go directly to the place where I'm headed, right? So I drive around a bit and I pay attention to who's behind me.
Yeah,
And if somebody's behind me more than a couple blocks, I just pull off the side of the road and like I'm making notes and I let them go off on their way.
right.
And then I'll go do my job. Because I don't want somebody following me and then me get out of the car and get jumped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of take roundabout ways and, oh, while I'm here, I'm gonna look. Car's gonna be looking for 3 blocks, so let me just pull over and let it pass, because apparently 20 miles an hour isn't fast enough for him. But these old guys who are trying to drive and look at the same time, I have to slow down to do that. The speed limit's only 25 in our city, come on. It's not 50, contrary to popular belief.
Well, all of us have probably had you know, where you're driving in your city,
Yeah,
somebody honks at,
I just wait.
flips their lights and wants to stop.
Mhm.
Usually it's because my neighbor did this or did
Right.
this. Get you
Yeah.
to kind of check it out.
Yeah,
You know, but you never know. If it's somebody you've dealt with in the past. I don't, how do you handle it?
See,
just give them a card through the window. Email me your complaint. Or come see me, I'll be back there this afternoon.
see, I've had them instead of pulling up at the residence you're dealing with. I've had that name in a little later going, well, they seen your damn car from the house. Now I think I'm bitching about, you know. So I'm not just losing it. So
Sure,
Yeah.
keeps miles away. I typically will drive by and then I'll come back and I'll look from the other side of the road. And if I can take pictures from my car, I take pictures from my car.
right.
If I have to get out on the sidewalk, then I'll go to the side.
And another big thing that brings up for confidence is to get with your powers to be that oversee, because these things change, but not everybody realizes what you do. So you know, you're with the police department, and you know, in fact, you were telling me or was this one of you guys was stoking the fire years ago, letting everybody know that. I don't like what I did. Why do you always bring me into your no, what are you trying to do here? What are you doing? Good. Because this, you're not watching you over there sneaking. As well as Christy. And they're fighting in order. You know, now you're mad you didn't sit with them back. You know, I'm just trying to think. You took me out of my car. I didn't. I'm sorry, driver. Well, you that's right. Well, what are you saying here? So you can
Pass that around over. Start.
yeah, we said the yellow.
This is the official.
Look at that, right on time, guys, right on the dot.
You know, another element that maybe we ought to be aware of a situation where I was out of the house, weeds or something. And this guy starts asking me who the informant is. Well, that happens all. Oh yeah.
I can say,
Who was the informant? I said, well, you know, I'm not a good to talk. Here to talk. Well, I know it's my neighbor and I'm gonna kick his ass. So if you leave, think maybe we have an obligation to maybe protect that neighbor. Do we want to get involved at all? Why or why not?
Because it might not be that neighbor. It might not be whatever. We can't relinquish information. It's kind of like a HIPAA law. We can't relinquish that. And if the guy's going to do it, he's going to do it.
Usually something to address it is, you don't know who it is. sometimes I say, I don't even know who it is. It gets sent down to me from the neighbor.
Sometimes
If you take action against someone, then the police are gonna arrest you. Do you really wanna get arrested for this situation? Let's just deal with the problem. That's kind of mine. I said, I'm not in the business of making neighborhood problems. I'm trying to fix, so let's work on what the problem.
What if it's a specific threat against a specific person? You could pass that on to your PE.
Yeah.
That's not, that's what's come up. Yeah, that's about as far as you, I would say, take it. You just pass on the information, hey, this was a threat that was given that I was privy to, and that's what it is. But yeah, any more than that, I mean, we get that all the time with ours. And I do the same thing. Every time somebody asks, well, who complained about me? I don't know. Everything I get is anonymous. I haven't.
Yeah, that's what I say too.
I haven't.
Then it was me driving by, I saw it, I am the complainant.
Yeah.
Sometimes so the person you're dealing with, say, my neighbor told me that they turned me in to this.
Okay.
That's
Great. She just said, so like, I'm here, it's like,
Yeah. That's kind of what I do is like, you don't need to make this go further by doing X, Y, Z that you're saying you're gonna do. Because these are the consequences that'll happen to you. That's what I care about, is how they're being affected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if somebody makes a credible threat, yes, we are gonna. And by the way, this is gonna get you in front of the judge. You're gonna be arrested for your threats.
Yeah.
See, that's the best way to go with that is to point out to them that we're here to deal with this situation that I'm dealing with now. You're creating a whole different
Right.
situation that and making, and so I think that's when I talk about getting with your powers to be, I think that's, a win-win for everybody. It's not, especially those that aren't, so I'm fortunate because I'm umbrella with police to CR. And so that works because I can call for backup and all notice, but some of us aren't that fortunate. So it's important those that are part, kind of connectivity. But then you be yourself, I mean, how many in here were former police officers that are paying for insurance?
Yeah, that's me. I retired law enforcement. This pays my insurance till 65, baby.
Is that your retirement time?
Yeah.
That's why you're so happy to get out.
Stay on the board.
I'm staying on the board to finish out my obligation.
Or
So, because I didn't want to just bail.
Just stay as long as we need her.
Why are you
just there.
Anybody have any other comments, questions? Okay, if you have not gotten your registration sent in, please get with your finance department for the conference if you're going. Get that sent in to Carlton as soon as possible so we can get our numbers. We've got some good speakers, some good training, so I'm excited.
can we get that email out to everybody?
Yes.
People have signed up. I think there's probably, with my agency, I would say 15, 16. So it's not bad, really, sir.
And if you have not been receiving my emails, have somebody shoot me your email so I can add you to the list, or you can email me at gconnelly, 1N. So it's GCONELLY at PG City, Utah, spelled out, .gov. And I'll get you added to the list. I've got like 125 people on there, so.
Also, if you have officers that have quit, you've got new officers, please let us know so we can have their address or email.
Email address, yeah, get the old ones off, and I've had a couple of people do that, so thank you for letting me know that, oh, this person's gone, and hey, I'm new, that's fantastic, that's what I have. Okay, and unless anybody has anything else, we are adjourned.